has estimated that the enactment of this legislation will actually reduce the deficit by over $100 billion. So this is legislation that's going to reduce the deficit eventually, because we're bending down healthcare costs. It does have an initial cost as we're gearing it up over a 10-year period, but in the long term, this will actually reduce the deficit. Secondly, we end discrimination on the insurance industry. The insurance industry was basically cherry-picking healthy people to insure and refusing to insure people that were sick. We saw annual caps put on certain conditions, lifetime caps put on chronic diseases, pre-existing conditions that didn't even let people get insurance in the first place. We've wiped that out. Now what the Republicans want to do is return to a time where insurance companies get to make record profits and discriminate against the sick. I don't think Americans want to do that. I've seen survey after survey that suggests while not all Americans maybe understand and appreciate this bill yet, the vast majority of Americans are against repealing the bill. The Republicans want to repeal the bill and let the insurance industry go back to their old ways. The Americans don't favor that. By a majority, Americans say, let's work on changes. The bill's not perfect. I'm sure we're going to have to make adjustments along the way. But this was designed to do two things. Give every American access to health care, regardless if they're sick or not, and to make it affordable. I mean, those goals are going to get accomplished. And the second thing was to reform the abuses in the insurance industry. We've done those two things, and I'm proud to have voted for the bill.
Proud?
Yeah, I mean, my congressional district supported this bill. It wasn't overwhelming. It was like a 60-40 during the debate. But I think more and more as people learn about this bill and see what it does, and that it doesn't do some of the terrible things it's been purported to do. There's no death panels and things like this in the bill. That there's going to be broader acceptance of the bill. But I supported the bill, and I was proud to support it, and I run on my record. People know I'm a supporter of the bill.
Okay, well, with regards to that, I want to do a follow-up on, now, I understand that senior citizens or older Americans vote for both parties in record numbers. At least they're one of the most consistent voters. So to all the Medicare senior citizens who are on it, could you please tell them, I already know these benefits, so it's kind of an unfair question, but could you please tell the senior citizens some of the brand new provisions that just became enacted on September 23rd? Because I think they really need to hear from you, because I've said it before on my show.
Well, first of all, I think it's important for seniors to understand their benefits are not going to be cut under this bill. We hear about the Medicare cuts. These are cuts to the providers, okay? When we did the Medicare Advantage program, the private sector came to us and said, we can offer traditional fee-for-service Medicare benefits with enhancements, and we can do it for 90 cents on the dollar. And we said, go ahead, do that. So Medicare Advantage was started. Well, under the Bush administration, that 90 cents crept its way up to $1.20, where we were actually paying Medicare Advantage companies 20% more than we were paying in traditional fee-for-service Medicare. So what we said in the bill is, you're going back to $1. We're going to pay you the same as we pay Medicare. But those cuts are going to the providers, not the beneficiaries. The law clearly states that 80% of all premiums collected by these Medicare companies must be spent on health care or refunded to the ratepayers if it's not spent on health care. So that's a provision the insurance industry doesn't like very much, and they're trying to get repealed with the Republicans. But we put that in there. Secondly, prescription drugs. One of the biggest expenses for seniors. And any senior on Medicare prescription D hits a donut hole after a certain amount of money. That first $2,000, you get in this donut hole. And for the next $2,000 to $3,000, depending on, and some of these drugs are very expensive, it comes out of their pockets. What we're doing time, completely eliminate the donut hole immediately.
So basically their medicine's free.
Yeah, basically this year they're going to get a check for $250. Anybody on Medicare Part D that's in the donut hole. Next year we're going to offer 50% discounts on drugs. And we're going to continue this program till we eventually phase out the donut hole completely. So seniors will eventually be able to get all of their prescription drugs and not have to pay out of pocket for anything. There will be no more donut hole. These are two great benefits for seniors. We strengthen the trust fund. The Medicare Trust Fund adds 12 years to the solvency of the fund with the changes we've made in that bill. So we've done three big things for seniors. Number one, we've guaranteed their benefits aren't going to be cut. Number two, we're eventually going to phase out the donut hole. And number three, we've strengthened the trust fund for another 12 years.
So then my question to you, Congressman, is why does it seem when you have these so-called polls, which I feel is debatable, but at any rate, these polls where 70% of Americans are against the health care law. Why is that?
Well,
in your opinion?
There's been a lot of information about the bill. I've seen commercials where it says that Democrats are cutting $600 billion from senior citizens of the Medicare program.
Okay.
Well, we're cutting the insurance companies, not the beneficiaries. We've kept their benefits intact. So, I mean, anytime you see commercials and there's misinformation, it scares people.
Right.
So people have to be better informed, and we're trying to go out there and give them information. But I still think the vast majority of Americans are telling us, don't repeal this bill.
Okay.
Just make it better if you need to. Make
Okay.
changes if you have to make it. That's what we're going to do.
Now, well, before we get into anything else, I have a rallying call that this is directed to all Americans and all Pittsburghers. If you are of college age, get to the polls November the 2nd. If you are 35 years old, get to the polls. All Americans must get to the polls, but especially older adults over the age of 50 or senior citizens who are 55, 65, what have you. Do not stay home. And do not forget that there is one party who brought about brand new benefits that's going to lower your costs for your prescriptions to the point where it's eventually going to be free. Now, if I'm a senior citizen and I'm on Medicare, within the next few years, I'm going to save tens of thousands of dollars. So I'm going to be very blunt. The Democrats brought us this law. Bottom line, this is not partisanship. The Democrats brought us this law. Now, you're a senior citizen. You're a lifelong conservative. You're a lifelong Republican. You have no intentions, would never, ever, ever consider voting for a Democrat or a liberal. Well, I'm going to ask you to change the way you have always been. Because if you vote for those Republicans and they take both houses, they want to take this law, completely throw it out. What does that mean to you? That means that thousands of dollars you're going to save, suddenly the law's gone and you're back to paying full price. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems to me that if I go into a dollar store, I want to buy that item for $1. If I have a chance to go into that dollar store and get it free, I want to get that item free. I certainly don't want to go to the dollar store and essentially have to pay thousands of dollars for a $1 item. So, look, you don't have to be in love with the Democrats. I'm not in love with any party. You don't have to be in love with them. But if you're a senior citizen and you vote against the current Congress, that amounts to you voting yourself an increase in the cost of your medicines. You're going to go from, let's say you spend $5,000 a year on your medicines. Let's just hypothesize. Next year, that's cut down to $2,500. Why would you vote for a party who wants to throw that away? And I'm sorry, but I got to tell it like it is. The Republicans had the nerve to come on throughout the country calling this law a disaster. I draw the line on that. My integrity demands it. You're going to call a law that saves American lives, that lowers the cost for senior citizens, that will help senior citizens live a better life, get free medications, life-sustaining treatments, and help children who've never been able to get health care access because of pre-existing conditions. They now can get it. And you're going to call that a disaster. I'll tell you what, Republican Party, you know what a disaster is? You're the disaster.
That's telling them.
You're the disaster. And every one of the Republicans in office who voted against it, which, by the way, was the entire Congress, if I had my way, there would be no Republican Party at all. Why? Because I'm a Democrat. No. Why? Because you called this law a disaster, a law that's going to save the lives of our grandmothers and grandfathers and our senior citizen fathers and mothers. You're going to say saving the life of an American is a disaster? Shame on you. Shame on every one of you. And you're not an American when you act that way. You may live in America, you may have a citizenship. Personally, you're an a-hole. Now, having said that, let me be very, very clear. This law may not be perfect, is not perfect, cannot be perfect without the American people. But if we allow the Republicans to repeal it, we will harm and, truth be told, kill our fellow Americans. Because children who could never, ever get access to health care can now get it. People who have pre-existing conditions eventually will not be allowed to be denied. Right now, they can be put into high-risk pools. And let me address one thing, and then I'm going to go to those 2 calls. Actually, Chris is going to answer them, but one of them. But there has been an AP poll, an Associated Press, says that even people who can now qualify for access to health care may not be able to afford it. That's what they subjectively claim. But what they forget is that a lot of people who may be able to qualify and get something may not be aware of the fact. So if you don't know, how are you going to get it? If I don't know what time it is, how am I going to set my clock? The point is, it was kind of a foolish poll because we don't know why these people haven't joined. But even yet and still, we still got to keep this law. So if you're a senior citizen and you vote against a Democrat, you're voting against free medicine within a few years. You're voting against free preventative health care. And quite frankly, you're voting against America's children who do have disabilities. And you know what? If you want to call me a Democrat, that's fine. Want to call me partisan? That's fine. But I love America. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't need the Republican Party. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm in love with the Democrats. Oh, you don't get a pass, Democratic Party. No, you don't. What do we need? We need politicians that remember the will of the people. What I think we should do? Put some libertarians in there. Put some Green Party members in there. Throw in a couple of Republicans. Throw in a couple of Democrats. Spread it out so that nobody has a monopoly on us. But then again, let's also do the real American Patriots Party. Form a brand new party. As far as the Tea Party is concerned, the Tea Party movement, you will not get me to believe that you are authentic and genuine until you start fighting for our Constitution and the repealing of the Real ID Act, because the Real ID Act will have every one of us being treated like prisoners in our own country. We have to carry an ID card, national ID card. And I don't even want to start to tell you how dangerous that truly is. It's bad. But the Tea Party, they're not doing a dang thing about it. So don't tell me you're about the Constitution when all you are is full of pollution. But with that, Chris, your thoughts on the fact that the Republican Party and some Democrats, yes, some Democrats, bonehead Democrats, by the way, Jason Altmaier, dumb decision. And you're a bonehead for wanting to repeal or not voting for the health care law. Yeah, I called you a bonehead. Yeah, I know you're a powerful man, but you know what? That was a bad decision. And I don't forgive you for it. Now, Chris, I'm bold, but they're cool. Your thoughts?
The health care bill.
Health care law.
The health care, I'm in favor of it.
And we got to get to these costs, so go for it.
And also, I would like to thank Mike Doyle for taking time out.
Yeah, I do too.
And also thanking his staff to free Mike Doyle for allowing us to do the interview. And with that, I'd like to go to the first caller.
Caller number 1.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How's everybody?
All right.
Bacon and eggs and toast for dinner tonight, or English muffins. Pick your choice.
English muffin.
This is a live show. Don't talk about English muffins.
In life is to realize your personal power. So many of us
What the hell is that?
I have no idea. What was that?
I have no idea.
Well, tell your hello so we can go to the next caller.